Hey guys, how's it going? Week 13, we're going to take a look on FanDuel. We're going to build a tournament lineup for this weekend. We do a cash game first look on DraftKings every Monday. Tuesday is FanDuel day. I know that some of you guys were missing the FanDuel content last week because it was Thanksgiving week, and my entire 5 days of creating content got smushed down into like 2 days of doing content, so something has to be sacrificed. I'm sorry for those of you who do look forward to this video every single week that it was not up last week. There's just not enough hours in the day on a short week like Thanksgiving week, especially with that extra slate on Thursday that we have to completely prepare for as well. So back to the normal schedule. We're going to take a look at building a highly correlated lineup on FanDuel with a quarterback stack, a bring back player. We're going to talk about secondary stacks. Maybe we'll be able to fit a third correlation into that lineup as well. And there's some news that we're going to have to discuss that broke earlier this week. This is a very strange season. Players being in and out of lineups for reasons that have differed from years before. Players coming onto slates and then leaving slates as games get moved around. But as I said on the showdown video for this week, or the Wednesday afternoon showdown, if I told you guys that in like May or June that we'd have a football season this year and you'd get to play fantasy football, and you'd get to have your drafts, and you'd get to play daily fantasy on an every week basis, but you'd have to have some flexibility. Some players are going to be ruled in and out of games. Some teams are going to have games moved, and we're going to have some weird scenarios, but you are going to get fantasy football. We all would have taken that back in May and June, and that's where we are now. So I appreciate you guys showing up every single day, it seems like, for the videos on this channel. The support this year on YouTube has been absolutely tremendous, and I appreciate each and every one of you who drop by the channel, drop a like on the videos, subscribe, ring the notifications bell, and now we've added the join button so that you guys can become channel members and to get the most out of your channel membership, because I don't want people just coming here and saying, okay, I'm going to give him $5 for the content. I like the fact that most of my content is free. In fact, like 99% of my content is free. If you elect to become a channel member, you get a nice little VIP badge next to your name anytime that you comment on one of the videos. You get some great emotes that we have that you can use here on YouTube, and if you have an iPhone, they're integrated there as well. But the big value add is if you join our Discord channel, there are VIP member rooms in NFL, NBA, sports betting, everything. If you wanted to be a part of that community, which is almost 5,000 strong, link your Discord to your YouTube channel. And if you click that join button and become a channel member, if you don't see it, there's also a link down below in the description, as well as a link to Discord, so that you can get the most out of your membership and surround yourself with people who are trying to get better at daily fantasy every single day. So a couple of things that I did want to mention before we get to the video. There is some new merch in the merch store. If you click down underneath the video, there's that row of things. We have some No Way Streamer merch. For those of you who like those YouTube stories that I've put out, or content on Instagram or Twitter, or wherever I posted that silly filter with the guy yelling at me in the comments, "No way, streamer!" There's your No Way Streamer merch. Sweatshirts, t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, multi different colors, depending on what you like. Go over there and get it. I'm sure that they've got some promo codes on Teespring with the holiday season here. So the big thing to talk about this week is the fact that Will Fuller is now out for the rest of the season because of a PED suspension. He didn't get hurt, guys. Suck it. He is out, though. And that opens up a lot of vacated space in that Houston offense, as Will Fuller was worth roughly 5.7 points per game to his quarterback, Deshaun Watson. He also was soaking up 22% of the usage, scored 10 touchdowns so far this year, as he led the team, or was tied for the team lead in terms of red zone targets, and led the team in terms of his end zone targets. So it's big shoes to fill. I think that Brandon Cooks, who already is leading the team in terms of target percentage, he might see a couple extra percent fall his way. I'm not thinking that he's going to go up to like 30 or 32%, which is like elite in the league. That's like DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen levels, Adam Thielen levels. I'm not thinking he's going to get all the way up to there, but thinking he could go to like 25, 26%, not out of the realm of possibility. If he gets 7 targets a game, that moves him up to like 8, 9, which helps us on DraftKings more than on FanDuel with full PPR versus half PPR. On the other side of that, Somebody needs to play. They released Kenny Stills, but Kiki Kute is still there, as you see here, with 2.79% of the target market share. He's going to now play. He's going to jump from like the 30% of snaps that he's been playing up to somewhere around like 75, 85% of the snaps. Randall Cobb might see a few extra percent as well, but at this point in his career, and the fact that he has run mostly in the slot for this team, he may shift outside, but he has been a slot receiver for the majority of his career. That's where he spent most of his time. I think they're going to play Kiki Kute, who also has played a lot of slot for this team last year, probably going to fill the outside role. Maybe they move Cobb outside. The whole point is they're going to see more. Cobb might see a few more percent. He's at 13.5% in terms of his target market share. Last year he was about the same on the Cowboys. That's about what he can handle at this point in his career. But Kiki Kute could jump up to something like 13 to 17% of the market share from 2.79. That's a massive jump. So if you're looking for somebody who's too cheap, again, a player that I like better on DraftKings, who was not available to us when I did the DraftKings video yesterday, he is still playable on FanDuel, but FanDuel less volume oriented, more touchdown oriented, but he is very cheap. So let's take a look at the slate. We'll take a look at the quarterbacks. Russ Wilson is 9K and is averaging 20 points a game over like his last month. Has not been cooking as he was chefing it up in the first 2 months of the season, because that quarterback efficiency was always going to fall. There was no way that he could sustain the rates that he was throwing for earlier in the season. They do get the Giants this week. DK Metcalf is a nightmare matchup. You know where the ball's going when it leaves Russ's hands more often than not. Obviously, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, his two favorite targets. David Moore, a good tournament shout as a second stack with one of the, if you're going with a double stack with a quarterback, to give you a little bit of value. And then clearly you can bring it back with somebody on the Giants. Wayne Gallman pops this week, as he is still way too cheap for the volume that he's had. Kyler Murray, probably not going to be using him in this video. Aaron Rodgers going up against Philly. Sure, why not? All he's doing is throwing multiple touchdowns in every game except for the one against Tampa Bay, and giving you 22 to 30 FanDuel points pretty much every time he takes the field. You know where the majority of his targets are going to go, especially considering that you're going to have to pay up here at like 18,000 just for this duo. It gives you a chance to pay up and be contrarian if that's the route that you wanted to look at. Some cheap guys that I think are interesting. We have to monitor the Miami quarterback situation. If Fitzmagic is going to start again this week, and we don't know if he's going to start again this week, he basically just gets you 18 to 30 points every time he takes snaps under center, and he's got good enough weapons to get it done. So at 7,400, I think that he's a solid value. Looking down further, if you can stomach Baker Mayfield, he looked really bad last week. He missed a lot of open plays, a lot of open wide receivers, and guys that were standing alone in the end zone and just missed them by 2 feet. He does square off this week against Tennessee, who has been a pass funnel and tougher to run against. So it's very possible that he will have to throw for touchdowns. Has some very capable tight ends that they utilize once they get around the goal line. They do tend to run it between the 20s more often than not. Cam Newton in a pace up situation for 7,500 with what he can add on the ground, both as a floor and a ceiling with those touchdowns, and a great bounce back spot after the egg that he laid against Arizona. Not going to have a lot of traffic on him a lot of the time, also because people don't know who to stack him with, and so they just avoid it altogether. But great bringbacks in this situation, and you get a little bit of a cheaper option than paying up for Herbert. I think Tannehill is also fine based on the fact that you could stack him with AJ Brown, Corey Davis, or Jonnu Smith, who I think is criminally cheap this week on all sites. Herbert as well, going against New England, who we've talked about is not a team that is as good defensively as their lifelong reputation has been, and Herbert's been outstanding. Multiple touchdowns in every one of his starts except for his first and his last. So he's bookended the one touchdown games. Good spot for a bounce back here. 300 yards basically in range for him every time that he starts a game this year, and multiple touchdowns way more often than not. And you know where the ball's going. Hunter Henry, Keenan Allen. You could probably even include Austin Eckler in your stacks with him, assuming he gets 7, 8, 9 targets. The market share there, more normal. I'm not expecting 16 targets for him. But where we're going to go on this video, it's a guy that we just talked about, Deshaun Watson. We know that we don't have Will Fuller in this game, And I'm sure that people might shy away from him as a result. Well, Will Fuller was creating so much for this offense and creating so many touchdowns that it was making Deshaun Watson the thing. I think they work really great in tandem with one another, and it's a shame that Will Fuller is going to miss 6 games when he was having an absolutely outstanding season. But there's other ways that we can go with this. So let's just highlight this game as soon as my eyes can find it. Where is it? There. Because I think that we've got good options here to stack him with, as well as bring it back. So quickly looking at the running backs, Jonathan Taylor was out last week with what we assume is close contact, because they did not report that yet. He was missing, which made both other running backs, Nyheim Hines and Jordan Wilkins, play a lot more snaps, get a lot more useful usage and predictable usage in that game. If Taylor is still out this week, then Nyheim Hines is my preferred option, as he was last week, just because of the increased usage in the passing game. The more snaps he's out there for, as much as Phillip Rivers just throws it to his running backs, the more snaps Nyheim Hines plays, the more catches he's going to get. And I'm going to assume he's not going to get vultured twice on the goal line again by Jacoby Brissett as the goal line back now. Duke Johnson, a really good matchup here with Indy's defense, assuming that Buckner is out again, something to monitor, but Duke Johnson not going to run the ball 20 times. So take it kind of as it is. Will Fuller out with a suspension. We spoke about how Kiki Kute is going to get a lot more run, going to get a lot more snaps, going to get a lot more targets. However, he is a higher risk for me on FanDuel than he would be on DraftKings, based on the way that the scoring goes. We need more touchdowns, and it's just too much of a question for me right now. I don't mind him as a secondary or a double stack here, or as the more contrarian play. I think he's going to be very chalky on DraftKings, but Brandon Cooks is where I want to go with this Deshaun Watson stack. And I'm going to bring it back with Michael Pittman, who I think had a bad game last week, but still got a mountain of targets. Every game in the last month, with the exception of Green Bay, who he did catch a touchdown against, he's got 9, 8, and 7 targets. That's great usage for the rookie. 24 targets over those 3 games, about 8 a game, excluding that Green Bay November the 22nd game that he had. I like the price here at $5,600. He doesn't have to do much. He is a big-bodied receiver who gets a lot of love around the goal line. I know people are going to ask me, what about T.Y. Hilton? I know he had a good game last week, but he did it on 5 targets again, guys. Pittman is the preferred guy based on the routes that he runs, the short and intermediate routes where he can win, and he's a bigger bodied receiver than Hilton, who can win around the goal line, and Rivers seems to connect with him more often than not. So that's going to be our primary stack. Let's look at a couple of secondary stacks, and the first one that I want to focus on is here in Minnesota. Adam Thielen missing last week's game, and I'm going to assume that he comes back for this week. And the amount of usage that Adam Thielen has gotten in the end zone and in the red zone for Minnesota this year has been tree freaking Mendes, with 11 touchdowns on the season. Big time upside in this spot. And for those of you who kind of sweat this video throughout the week, if he's out, pivot to Justin Jefferson, because if he's out again, then Justin Jefferson is going to get a ton of usage. With Thielen there, Jefferson's more of a boomer bust play. Without Thielen there, he is a really high floor play as well as a high ceiling play, as he soaks up all the end zone usage and red zone usage that usually goes towards Adam Thielen. At running back, to pair with him, I'm going to go with James Robinson. I know I'm going to get 20 touches whether they win or they lose. We have some involvement in the passing game, which gives him a little bit better floor, and he gets all of the inside the 5 carries. So give me James Robinson in this spot as a correlated play, as a secondary play here. We're going to move on to another game that I think we can get another correlated play that's going to fit into this lineup. Tight end has been an enigma, shrouded in mystery, wrapped in a riddle all season long. And TJ Hawkinson going up against the Bears, with the increased usage that he has seen since that November 1 game against Indy, because of the absence of Kenny Golladay, has made him into a high floor, high ceiling player. He has not scored a touchdown in 3 weeks. He is still getting a lot of end zone and red zone usage from this Lions offense. I think TJ Hawkinson is outstanding this week in a game against a tough defense, but one that struggles against opposing tight ends. A lot of people might think that DeAndre Swift coming back this week might be a big thing for him. It might. He is involved in the passing game. He can always have a good game because he is a big play running back. I'm fine with it, but I'm going to take the floor at $600 cheaper with David Montgomery. And I say the floor because David Montgomery's usage in the passing game gives us a really good floor against a defense that we do want to stream running backs against. Detroit has given up so many touchdowns to opposing running backs. David Montgomery kind of scripted out of that game a little bit, only getting 11 carries against Green Bay when they lost by a massive amount. Now we get David Montgomery here, expecting maybe, let's say, 14 to 16 carries, 4 to 6 targets, increased touchdown upside in this game at only 6,200, and the correlation play with TJ Hawkinson, leaving us with a defense to be played. I'm just going to plug in a random defense. Let's come down somewhere cheap. Fine. Boom. Okay, actually, that's not terrible. That's actually not too bad. And then leaving us with one play to make it flex. I want as much as I can get out of this. If you want to go with AJ Brown against Cleveland, I get it. Big play upside. Floor kind of fluctuates on a week in, week out basis. Big bodied wide receiver because of the targets that fluctuate for them. Monitor that Cleveland line if you want. Chris Carson. I mean, just not really getting the ball. Even now that he's back, just wasn't getting the ball. Too many mouths to feed. He could have a boom game. He's not going to be very highly played. You can go with him if you want. DeAndre Hopkins, fine. Rams are tough against wide receivers. I think that the path of least resistance in this range is Keenan Allen getting an absolute metric ton of targets week in, week out. Great passing game offense. Scores touchdowns for us. Give me Keenan Allen. The flex is a standalone one-off play. Deshaun Watson, pairing him with Brandon Cooks to Michael Pittman coming back. David Montgomery paired with TJ Hawkinson. James Robinson correlating well with Adam Thielen on the other side. Keenan Allen is a one-off. Get a cheap defense in there to slide in, and we have ourselves a really highly correlated lineup to plug into GPPs on FanDuel this week. I wish you the best of luck. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.